It's me, Maxxy Rainbow.
And I am Renata from the 𝗍spot.
And welcome back to episode 36 of the 𝗫𝗍𝘆 podcast. In this episode, we are really rounding off the Eurovision 2024 season with the aftermath of Eurovision 2024 and with an emphasis of the disrepute that has come along with this contest. So this is kind of like a final episode of the Eurovision 2024 season, for the most part, in terms of like news, in terms of things that are going on. And it was a really tumultuous 2 weeks. So we're going to be going over, kind of the aftermath of all of that in this episode. But before we get into the episode, we have to give a special thanks to our sponsors of the 𝗫𝗍𝘆 podcast. That is our patrons. These are people who went over to patreon.com/𝗫𝗍𝘆 podcast and subscribed to get the full-length video episodes of every single podcast a little bit early on Thursdays, ad-free as well, full-length video episodes, all that jazz, as well as some Patreon exclusives and some very special stuff going into the Eurovision off season that we want to announce is that we will be doing some Eurovision watch parties of older years. I know people always ask me to react to older years of Eurovision, especially during the off seasons. And so we're going to be doing that over on Patreon. So make sure if you're just listening and you haven't subscribed already to go over to Patreon and subscribe, because you don't want to miss any of that over this summer. But another benefit that you get at the beginning of the episodes is a shout out. So shout out to the following people. So shout out to Daniel, O'Beely, Alistair, Russell, Shoegazer, Daniel, Kathleen, Suniva, Norbert, Jackson, Henny, Andrew, Elliot, Sana, Liza, and our newest patron, that's 𝗫𝗍𝘅𝘆. Shout out to 𝗫𝗍𝘅 because you were in the live chat. Yes, we love 𝗫𝗍𝘅. 𝗫𝗍𝘅 was leaving all the funny little comments in our live stream. So it's so nice to see a familiar face in there. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed and supported the podcast, especially over this entire season. Thank you to everybody who has been listening, has been watching, interacting. We really appreciate it. This was it's been a great year in terms of the podcast. For sure. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's been a highlight.
So much fun.
This has been a highlight of my personal Eurovision 2024 season. And so, yeah, we started this podcast this year, this Eurovision year. So, so it's really exciting to see it last, the whole Eurovision year. And yeah, of course, if you want to shout out at the beginning of the episode and you want to get some of that exclusive content that's coming your way over this summer, make sure you head over to patreon.com/𝗫𝗍𝘆 podcast and subscribe. And yeah, guys, on to the episode. Okay, so before we even get into the episode, I just want to say shout out to Nemo. Of course, I'm wearing, if you're just listening to the episode, I'm wearing my Nemo hat. So, just shout out to Nemo as an end to the season. They are such a great winner, and I'm so proud of having them as a representative of the contest. I'm wearing my Liverpool heart shirt to bring back good memories of what Eurovision once was, because this week has been, or I guess last week has been absolutely absurd. I actually returned to work this week, and I've been just, being bombarded with the question of, how was Eurovision? How was your trip? Because I guess, the amount of times I said I'm not going to Eurovision, I'm just going to be home, didn't really sink into people's heads. How was your trip? How was Sweden? Bitch, I wasn't there, but let me tell you, it was a fucking mess. So for we're not going to be going into in depth over everything that went on last week. We covered it a little bit in our live stream that we did after the final, and I think that most of us by now know generally the timeline of things that were going on. But one of the big kind of, what word would you use to describe like big ending, big explosion, something of that sort at the end, was of course the Joost Klein situation that ended up happening. So semifinal 2, we did a live stream about it, and it was just on, just when a little bit was going on. We just knew that Joost Klein didn't show up to the jury rehearsal. We knew those details. Truly, I didn't expect after that everything that went on to go on. But of course, what ended up happening was Joost Klein ended up being disqualified from the competition literally the day of the competition on Saturday in the morning, was officially announced being disqualified. And this was basically, we had no confirmation as to what was going on, and that was what was making the entire situation so frustrating. Up until that moment, we didn't have anything, any official statements. It was all just allegations, and Eurovision and the EBU just let those allegations,
Huh.
just spread like COVID did, because
Yeah.
they really just let everybody, say that he did some extremely heinous actions. Like, there was stuff going around that suggested sexual assault. There was stuff going around that he brutally beat a woman camera operator, all of these things. And we still don't technically know exactly what happened, I suppose, but really we can only base stuff off of the statements that we've gotten both from the EBU and as well from 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆, which is that the actual network for the Netherlands? Yeah, it's the TV network for the
Yeah.
Netherlands. So they both have released statements. 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆 was a lot more quick with releasing a statement. Like,
Yeah.
after the disqualification, they were, we weren't getting anything until the disqualification. Then all we got from the EBU was that they said that there was an incident between him and a female camera operator. I think they gave that detail, right?
I think
Um,
they did say that she
yeah.
was a camera operator.
But they made it sure to emphasize that she was female, rest assured. But those are the only details that they gave. But then 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆, thank God, decided to give a statement, because it was like we weren't getting any details from the EBU. All these places were running with this story like it was fact, and they were just totally, coming up with their own thing. So again, we don't know exactly what exactly happened, but this is the statement that 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆 initially released. So when he was first disqualified, they said, "We have taken note of the disqualification by the EBU. 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆 finds the disqualification disproportionate and is shocked by the decision. We deeply regret this and will come back to this later." Well, they came back to it later, because after that, they then released the statement giving a little bit more detail from their side as to what occurred. They said, "An incident occurred after last Thursday's performance. Against clearly made agreements, Joost was filmed when he had just gotten off the stage and had to rush to the green room. At that moment, Joost repeatedly indicated that he did not want to be filmed. This wasn't respected. This led to a threatening movement from Joost towards the camera. Joost did not touch the camera woman. This incident was reported, followed by an investigation by the EBU and the police. Yesterday and today, we consulted extensively with the EBU and proposed several solutions. Nevertheless, the EBU has still decided to disqualify Joost Klein. 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆 finds the penalty very heavy and disproportionate. We stand for good manners. Let there be no misunderstanding about that. But in our view, an exclusion order is not proportional to this incident. We are very disappointed and upset for the millions of fans who were so excited for tonight. What Joost brought to the Netherlands and Europe shouldn't have ended this way," which is so real. And then just like an extra thing. So then following all of that is when they also made the decision not to deliver the points, which was kind of a slay. Like, I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
because what ended up happening was, like, Alexandra from Norway chose not to give the points, and 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝘆 chose not to give the points for Finland, but they found other replacements, right? It was just another person. Girl, they were like, "No, Martin
Yeah.
Osterdahl, you gonna have to deliver the points, because we ain't giving nobody else." Nikki Tutorials was supposed to be the one, and they both were like, "No, fuck y'all, figure it out."
Yep.
So that was such a slay moment. I lived for that.
And then he got booed, of course,
And then
so
he got booed.
loudly that I couldn't really tell if Nemo, because they got the 12, if they couldn't hear the announcement, because they didn't really react,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
probably what they wouldn't have celebrated those points
It
anyway.
looked like they were, like, looking to their the people in their delegation. To me, what I interpreted from, like, their movements and kind of the way they seemed to be interacting was that they were like, just, you know, don't don't cheer, don't be celebratory with that. Just,
Yeah, like no matter who
out of
gets those
respect.
points, don't
Yeah,
cheer. But I saw videos from inside the arena and like you couldn't hear what Martin Osterdahl was saying actually in the arena.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we got from 𝗲𝘅𝘅𝘆.
Mhm.
And then the EBU finally, after, so that was like, that happened before the grand final, right? So they released those statements before the grand final even happened. So we got all that information. EBU did not give a statement until after the contest. And this is do you want to read this? I haven't read
Yeah,
them.
I'll
You
read
want to
it.
read one?
Um, the Dutch artist Joost Klein was disqualified from the grand final of this year's Eurovision Song Contest following threatening behavior directed at a female member of the production crew. Swedish police have investigated the offense, and the case will soon be handed over to the prosecutor in an accelerated procedure. Yost's behavior was in clear breach of contest rules, which are designed to ensure there is a safe working environment for all staff and to protect the production. We are not prejudging the legal process, but given the circumstances of what occurred and the fact that the police case will shortly be handed to the prosecutor, it would not have been appropriate for Joost to participate in the grand final. The decision to exclude him was backed by the contest governing body of members, the Eurovision Song Contest Reference Group, and unanimously supported by the EBU Executive Board following a thorough internal investigation. The version of events released in some public comments and on social media does not correspond with the statements shared with us and the Swedish police by staff and witnesses. However, the matter is now subject to legal proceedings, and there is unfortunately nothing further we can add at this stage. We have a zero tolerance policy towards inappropriate behavior at our events and will always take necessary actions to address threats to staff, no matter who they come from. They have a really interesting choice of words
Mhm.
in this document. And
Yes.
they clearly are only interested in protecting the staff and the production, which means the EBU. That everything that they do to protect the EBU. They don't even, the only time they say artist is when they're referring to Joost Klein as the disqualified Dutch artist.
Yeah.
They don't care about the artists here at all in this statement. They do not care.
Yeah. That was shocking to me for a number of reasons because, I think that the weird thing about this is, to me, in my head as like an onlooker, is that they also have a responsibility to protect the artists, the people who are entering their space. The like that is a responsibility of them. To me, the artists are also like an employee of the
Yeah.
EBU in this moment for Eurovision. They are a I don't know, cast member on this show that they are producing. So like, why are they not awarded the same respect in this situation? I'm so confused about this because um number one, it's the whole situation is apparently to do with this person filming him without his consent. Apparently, there's a lot of stuff going around that 𝗲𝘅𝘅𝘆 and the Dutch delegation actually issued a complaint before the incident even occurred, making sure that nobody was to film him outside of the actual like time that he was supposed to be filmed without his consent. Then hearing that he specifically said in the moment to not film him multiple times, I'm confused why if we're believing that story, which I personally am more inclined to believe 𝗲𝘅𝘅𝘆 because they seem to have a more history of being honest in these situations, and the EBU has been very calculated in the specific wording of things. Um, if I
Also,
believe,
like if he actually did do something bad, they wouldn't have
no,
any problem with saying, we can't believe he did this. We're disgusted with the behavior. He's put shame on us. We're
yeah,
out a bunch of money. Like we're, like they actually, even if they liked Yost, they could have like said, like,
yeah,
sorry, dude, we're gonna have to cover our own asses. But instead they're defending him.
yeah. And I'm confused that this situation presumably was filmed. So
Mm-hmm.
I suppose because it's going through legal proceedings, it's been reported to the police, which is maybe why it hasn't been released to the public yet. But it is a little suspicious for me just because if it was filmed, it wouldn't be black and white. It would be obvious as to what happened. And it wouldn't have been like so many days of we still don't have an answer. It's been turned over to the police, but there's all these other things. Um, and then also there's the thing in the back of my head that's wondering why was an employee of the EBU harassing an artist? And why has the EBU taken the decision to defend one of their employees harassing one of the artists? Because that's confusing to me. I don't understand what the motivation behind a camera operator doing this to Yoast. I don't
Well,
understand.
I wonder if part of it, and I'm not sure because I don't know about like employment law over there, but it might be that that camera person is in some kind of a union
Hmm.
and that they need to be basically protected. I don't know that that's the
Yeah.
case. I'm not,
Okay.
if anyone in the comments like is in employment law in Sweden
Yeah.
or in Europe, European Union, because it probably is European Union. Um, but
That's
also
true. Yeah, because I do
the,
hear that about like people like it's not as easy to be just get like in the US we're so used to just like if you do like you're just out. Like they could just fire you like that. They don't even need a reason. But I do hear that in Europe it's a little bit harder to get fired. So,
yeah. Something that stands out to me too is the stuff regarding the police
mhm.
because I guess I don't know what like the legal system is like there, but the wording of it, if it was the United States, just to say that something is being handed off to the prosecutor's office, a lot of times what happens here is things get passed from the police to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor says, there's no crime here,
Mhm.
and they drop your charges.
Yeah,
So like it doesn't actually mean anything. Like it's you're like in the US too, like you're innocent until proven guilty. So like
exactly.
like the presumption actually here the presumption would be he did not attack this person until it can be proved that he
Yeah.
did. And it doesn't even seem like the allegations are that anyone was attacked. What I think it was, based on what we have heard, is probably something where, someone is pissing you off, you're mad at them, and you just kind of like
Like
do one of
back up.
these. You just
Dude,
do,
back
you
up.
like you pull up, yeah, you pull up the fist. Maybe like, like why I oughta,
Yeah.
one of these. Like that might have been enough of it. But um I think ST had said something about
Mm-hmm.
this, about what it's like to be a part of the contest, and the fact that they do film the artists before and after they get on stage. Which now, in retrospect, now that I know that those videos are actually like kind of sensitive periods for the artists, they need to just stop doing that altogether. Behind the scenes footage, there's plenty of that we get on their Instagram accounts, for Christ's sakes. Like we don't need them to manufacture backstage content for us. They can stop. Um, but yes, she said that she had a hard time and that she believed that the people backstage at Eurovision did not respect her boundaries when she was a performer. That's what she said.
That's
So
sick.
this is like, and that was what, 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 years since where we have someone saying that they didn't respect my boundaries backstage. That's not great.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, Yoast is overly sensitive. It's like, well, somebody else is saying that they from a completely different year. So different
Yeah.
production staff, different circumstances, everything different.
Yeah, and then the other concerning thing is that like following Yoast being actually announced as being officially disqualified, what we do know is that a couple of delegations and their artists had an emergency meeting with the EBU and with Eurovision head bitches of Eurovision, um, where they were discussing all of the issues that were ongoing all week that they had been reporting over and over and over again all of the issues that 𝗵𝗍 was having with the Israeli delegation, and not just the delegation, with the commentators, all these things that were going on to make the artists feel uncomfortable. I think Portugal was another one. I think Greece was another one. I want to say, who else? Maybe, was it just them three? Was it Nemo as well? No, I don't think Nemo was. But it was like a couple of artists had this emergency meeting, right? It was, so they missed the flag parade from that show, the show that was going on in the morning. I guess the family show is what that was. They missed the flag parade. I think they all performed. I don't think, actually, maybe 𝗵𝗍𝘆 didn't perform. I don't think 𝗵𝗍𝘆 performed, but I think the other two did perform. But that was very concerning, that we have heard that, I mean, we already knew that Joost was being also harassed at the turquoise carpet, was being filmed without his consent. He was asked if he wanted to be, or if he could film with them or take a photo with them, and he said no. So they decided that they were going to film him and post it on their Instagram story. We saw that for a fact after what happened in the press conference following semifinal 2, where Joost Klein, you know, said a simple 2 words. And I guess that was enough to have a member of the Israeli delegation make a post on their Instagram saying that they that anti-Semites do not deserve to sing or breathe around them. And it was obviously referring to Joost because, you know, he said, why not? So I guess he's an anti-Semite because of that. But, you know, and then conveniently hours after that was posted on Instagram, there was an incident of him being filmed, which was already being done by the Israeli delegation. And again, I'm not saying that this has anything to do with each other, but it's confusing to me why this was such a thing that keeps happening, in that they kept reporting it. It kept being reported to the EBU. Why is it that none of these reports were dealt with? And Joost was like instant. It was between the flag parade and him performing 5th. He was supposed to perform 5th. So between that and that, he was already dealt with.
Well, what's really confusing to me as well about that fact that he pulled producer's choice is that at this point in the contest, they were very well aware. I mean, fucking people like us across the ocean, a world away, knew that there was all this tension specifically between that delegation and the Dutch delegation. We knew that. So the EBU definitely knew that. And then they went and put them in a lineup together where they would be next to each other, where every single rehearsal they have to be behind each other, where they have to wait in the hall with each other. Why would you do that? You would think you'd like, okay, well, let's try to get them as far, let's try to get them to the point where they don't even have to see each other. You know, for everybody's sanity.
Yeah.
But instead they did the worst possible thing. Even if there was one fucking delegation between them, like plop France in between them or something, just to like diffuse the situation. Or Cyprus, who's like who seems to be one of the only ones who hasn't come out with a statement. Well, yeah, I guess she already was. He was between the two.
He was between the two. But even if they put her between them two, like there haven't been any issues apparently with the Luxembourg delegation. So it's like, yeah, it was very strange that they chose to make that decision, and then they're very prompt, quick dealing with that problem, but none of the other ones. I will not rest easy, and which means I will not rest easy for the rest of my life, because I cannot believe that a member of the delegation, I believe it was like Eden's stylist or something. She wasn't like a manager or something. It was someone like that. But like, I can't believe that anybody on the Israeli delegation could make a post implying a death threat towards an artist. And there was not, as far as I'm aware, that she was perfectly fine to stay there. As far as I'm aware, she was not removed from the premises. As far as I'm aware, the EBU never issued a statement about that. That's insane. That was posted on her public profile on Instagram. We all have screenshots of it, and I'm going to put it up in the episode. So, hey, none of y'all can tell me I'm lying. We all saw it. So that is insane to me. that that could happen. Like, and it's truly the going back to the EBU's statement, it's a joke. It's a complete joke of them saying we have a zero tolerance policy towards inappropriate behavior at our events, and we will always take necessary action to address threats to staff, no matter who they come from. No matter who they come from. Oh, what a joke. What a joke. That's like literally not true. That is literally not true.
Well, but it is true if you're talking about their staff,
Their
because
staff.
they don't pay Joost Klein. Joost Klein is not their
Yeah.
staff. The delegates aren't their staff.
Yeah.
But they very quickly put out anti-bullying statements for fans.
That's ridiculous. The way that they have handled all of this has been literally the worst possible way they could have handled it, I feel like.
Every step of the way, the whole season.
So yeah. So then following after all of that, we've gotten a lot of stuff from other artists, from other delegations, from other national broadcasters that have come out and said some different things. A lot of them in support of Joost, or just about in general their experience at Eurovision 2024. So just on the topic of Joost, one of the artists on the front lines for Joost Klein was our new Lord and Savior, our Prime Minister of the EU, 𝗫𝗫.
Yes.
Who she was truly on the front lines fighting for Joost from the beginning.
She's a G. She is fucking
is
down.
she's a G. She, like literally, I love that the whole fandom entire perspective on her has switched around. We stand 𝗫𝗫 from now until the end of time. She tweeted out, please bring Joost back, was what she tweeted. And then followed up on that, she cross-posted. So she posted this on her Instagram and her Twitter. She felt so passionately about it. She said, if he has done anything wrong in approaching a woman or a man, he should be prosecuted legally. But that has got nothing to do with him competing in a music festival. The timing is too short to clarify things to take official stances. That means he cannot be penalized overnight in my book. Like,
period.
Make her the executive supervisor of Eurovision. She said, I'm putting out my statement quick. She said, in my book, there is not enough time. Because you know what, that's tea. Because like you said, like in the US at least, and like, I know people get annoyed whenever we look at things with our US perspective.
But that's what we know.
That's what we know. And like in the US, yeah, if you don't get to lose all your opportunities, you're not found guilty. I mean, that's basically what it is in this case, he's being found guilty until he's proven innocent. He loses his opportunities for all of that. He's not allowed to, whatever. And they haven't even come to the conclusion that he was guilty. And so, T for Miss 𝗫𝗫. And then she said later on in replies to some people, she said, what are you so scared about? Him not being guilty or him being guilty? Because if he is, he will suffer the legal and moral repercussions. Otherwise, what exactly is your problem? Then she went on to reply, I'm not the one trying to silence or cancel anybody without actually knowing what has happened and who's at fault and at what level. So asking me about what being scared is plain uncreative and unimaginative. The presumption of innocence is a basic human right. Bitch, she ate. And then she said, like, come on, like, 𝗫𝗫, she said, you know what? I'm a lawyer now. I'm pulling it all out. She is on the front lines battling for Joost Klein. We love 𝗫𝗫. And it's nice to see artists come out in support of him because he was so loved by everyone. And that doesn't mean that, in the end, if he's found guilty of doing something wrong or anything, like that doesn't mean anything. But in the end, I think that what most people are trying to emphasize, it's not about him being guilty or not guilty, even it's about the double standard of the way that the EBU has chosen to handle this. That's why even if he's found guilty, most people will probably still stand by him because that's what it's about. It's about it not being just.
Well, and here's another aspect to this too, because there is this kind of like, legalistic, innocent till proven guilty. But there's also the fact that like this is like, a contest and they can actually kick people out for whatever reason. Like you can be told that you can't compete. Nobody has like a human right to compete in Eurovision, I guess. but however, like you said, like it is the double standard, and Eurovision's own standard is that they have allowed convicted criminals, convicted sexual abusers to
Yes.
compete.
I was thinking about that.
So,
I was like, we got people that were wanted in countries so they couldn't even go to certain pre-parties.
yes.
Like,
Like these people were allowed to compete in the show, whereas we have someone who seems to have been, if they end up being charged with something, it's going to be on the words of like a threat, like you made a verbal
mhm.
threat to somebody, you said you would punch somebody.
Yeah, who hasn't done
This
that in
is,
their life?
or it wanted to, you
You
know.
know? Yeah. We also had Dawn's who came out in support of him just in the after fact. It was in like a backstage sort of video where people were interviewing and asking people about what they thought of that situation. And again, it has all been of the energy of like, you know, it's shitty the way that this was all handled, and I
Yeah.
think that people like, and that's the thing, I just think this year has really been a year of people really just throwing out claims. And it's like, oh, you support Yost? Then you support women being beat? You support women being sexually assaulted? Like, that's not what it's about. And like, anybody with a brain knows that that's not what it's about. But it's just, this year has been kind of exhausting in that way of just like dealing with people that just like just say anything. And you're like, you just lost all arguments.
Well, yes, and actually the little quote that you included with Bessa, I recognized that conversation because I got sucked into that conversation. I broke my rule of not interacting with anybody who I don't already know during
Mm.
Eurovision week, because he kept bringing up Roman Polanski. And I was like, bro, like, why are
What?
you talking about Roman Polanski was convicted?
Yeah.
Like that's Roman Polanski's whole thing is just like, the guy from Bulgaria. Like he can't go certain places because
Hmm.
I think he can't go back to France, or maybe he went from France. He can't go somewhere because he has been convicted of a crime.
Hmm.
So, and Joost has not even been charged with a crime as far as we know. So like, what the
Yeah,
fuck are
that's
you
true.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally just like an allegation right now is all we really have.
Yeah.
Um, so uh so then the other really like disappointing thing about all this happening with Yost, with them being disqualified, is the fact that I mean, if I think that the way that the Netherlands, with the way that 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆 has like, been going hard in support of Yost and in opposition of this decision, is that really if something major is not done with Eurovision, I highly doubt that the Netherlands will be coming back next year. I don't even think if something's done, they'll come back
Mm-hmm.
because like people really forget how much money goes into going to Eurovision, millions and millions and millions of dollars that these countries put into, or that these broadcasters put into competing in Eurovision, to be disqualified the day of the competition when you are a fan favorite potential winner, and you get disqualified that day and you feel that it's unjust and there's no time to really do anything because it's the day of the competition. All that money that went into that performance essentially be, I mean, it's not wasted because at least he did get to perform. Like in theory,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it could have all ended after semifinal two if he didn't qualify. So it could have been the end anyways. But all that money in a way wasted in that sense. And seeing the way that everybody in the Netherlands is reacting, it's like I highly doubt that the Netherlands is coming back next year. I hear that the Netherlands is one of the biggest contributors to like giving money to compete into Eurovision. I hear they're like number six, which I would
That's what
believe.
I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would mean that they are basically next in line to be in the big five. Um, and so to lose them would be a big deal. And I think that we need countries to actually be withdrawing or at least threatening to withdraw. And I think after this year, we probably will see it because a lot of people are feeling it um, after that competition. So we have a few people that have specifically come out already.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of like individual delegates, artists, and even heads of delegation making statements. So the Serbian head of delegation, 𝗍𝗍𝘆 𝗥𝗶𝗍, um, She was quoted saying, "We can discuss whether Israel's participation is just. Israel was attacked first and may have been the victim in the beginning. However, with how the situation has developed, with every dead Palestinian child, Israel is slowly losing its right to participate in international events. More importantly, it's losing the media war. As much as people say that there's an Israeli propaganda push, you can't sell a product which is very bad. Israel received the highest marks almost exclusively from Western European countries. There's also a possibility that there was an organized voting campaign." She also adds that she wants to know why Joost had been disqualified. Um, and then there was the public relations director and ESC commentator for RTS, the Serbian broadcaster, 𝗤𝗍𝘅𝘆. She had said that she has been a commentator since 2004, which was the year I started watching as well. And she said that this was her hardest year ever. The quote, "The atmosphere was not Eurovisionary. There was everything except a uniting through music." I love that quote. The atmosphere was not Eurovisionary. That is like such a great quote. So the Serbians are definitely feeling very not happy right now
Yeah,
with several things that are going on, and not just the head of delegation, although obviously to have a head of delegation come out and say
that's
things so
huge.
strongly, because they're the ones that have the closest connection to the EBU. But like the commentators no longer wanting to be involved in something that probably was like one of the best assignments you could get. You get to go to Eurovision, you get to commentate all these great shows, like be part of this thing, and then to have that kind of like completely turn into the worst job assignment possible. Like
Yeah.
who's gonna like that's what I keep thinking with a lot of these is like who's gonna want to do this next year?
Yes. Yeah, for everyone, for who would want to host, who would want to compete, who would want to attend, who would want to volunteer. I mean, with all of this going on, I mean, why would you want to next year? Like, I'm even seeing people put out their wish lists for next year. I just keep thinking, I don't want anybody like everybody saying Milena from Armenia.
No,
No,
stay away from her.
stay away from her. Give her a few years. I need this contest to come back in good standing. I do not want my faves to waste their time next year. And like, it's just, I mean, I know for Ollie Alexander, like he came out of this competition, girl, he's thought this was supposed to be his big debut as a solo artist. I wouldn't be surprised if his ass never wanted to make music again. Like this, I
Yeah.
mean, we have horrible. I love what the Serbian head of delegation said in her statement specifically. I just thought this was a really powerful statement when she said it's losing the media war. As much as people say that there is an Israeli propaganda push, you can't sell a product which is very bad. I was like, bitch,
Yeah.
she chewed with that.
But
I
the
was like,
Serbians know a
wow.
thing or two about genocides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's a recent livable memory for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So,
And I was shocked to actually, even given that, because I hadn't heard of like Theodora having any certain kind of experience or anything. She wasn't one of the artists that was maybe targeted. Um, so it's interesting that even artists or delegations that weren't specifically targeted um are also had poor experiences.
well, and wasn't Serbia the first semifinal? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
actually, they weren't really even in the same like bubble. Like other people
Mm-hmm.
like Luna, she was also in the first semifinal. She has
Mm-hmm.
since said that her involvement with the issue specifically regarding the Israeli delegation, she didn't have any because she wasn't in that semifinal, so she wasn't really near them. So that would be the same most likely with Serbia, that they actually weren't too close. Also, neither of them said anything specifically that I can remember. They never signed a statement, so they wouldn't have been,
No, yeah.
targeted by the other delegation.
Yeah. But even Luna, she did confirm that that she confirmed harassment from the Israeli media and delegation. So it's like even these people who were not competing around Israel. I mean, obviously Luna never made it through, so she never competed alongside Israel in that
Mhm.
sense. But even she was able to witness what was going on in some sense, and even if it wasn't targeted towards her. Um, and then yeah, even we had Portugal RTP's president Nicolau Santos said today that the broadcaster awaits thorough answers about the delay in posting Yolanda's performance during the Eurovision final. Also states it's strange that the 12 points awarded by the Portuguese televo went to Israel. He clarified Portugal is not to withdraw from Eurovision because of this incident, but states that Eurovision deserves reflection due to the various events that occurred regarding the alleged intimidation by the Israeli team towards other delegations. And I mean, I think that's a big thing for Portugal too, because Portugal is a country that doesn't get as much funding. I know they're always talking about being broke for
Mhm.
Eurovision. And, you know, it's, yes, they got top 10, and that's a great result for Portugal, but also all these problems, her being censored for her nails. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, that
Crazy.
you could, to be quite honest, you couldn't even see in the stream. She's doing this with her
Yeah,
hands.
I
You
didn't
can't
notice
even
at
see
all.
it. So, like,
And she had the same nails on the turquoise carpet. Um,
yeah, exactly. And I know that they also, the Portuguese delegation has also come out just and talked about um the issue with the fake applause. I mean, that censorship of the audience, putting over fake applause over real applause. And it's also like not honest journalism, media, whatever. It's fake news, girl. It's fake news.
yeah.
That's not reality. And that was my whole thing watching damn Eurovision was this is weird. This is like, you know, when you see those North Korean skits
Hmm.
where it's like they create a K-pop group or they like, you know, have them put out this movie and it's like it's meant to be propaganda, obviously. It's meant to show the country in a light that is not reality, and it's fully produced and fake. And that's what it felt like. If I honestly felt like it was a scene out of like if the Eurovision movie was a horror film.
Mm.
That's what I was watching. It felt so like I was actually disturbed watching that.
Well, what I started thinking too, knowing that they were doing it, was are they adding extra applause on the other acts too?
Yeah.
Because actually, and not just even about booing, I would like to hear, like, was if the crowd was not feeling a performance, I want to hear that reflected in the audience reaction.
Mhm.
Like, I want to know now, do they do it for other songs? Like, do you have to have, like, if it doesn't meet a specific level of noise, will they
Mhm.
add in extra? Because you know you've watched like streams of pre-parties and like
Oh
somebody
yeah.
flops and there's just like you know they're trying to get people to sing along and you can tell no one's singing along,
Yeah.
like it does make it all feel like, are they like, can, because it does make a difference as well,
It
like if
does.
people,
Yeah.
it even if it's subconscious and
Yeah.
how, but people do, like, they think, well, if other people are feeling it, obviously if I already think it's good and now I have other people validating the idea that I think it's good, which is something you learn when you work in retail a lot, is that
Mhm.
you validate the customer's purchase.
Yeah. I think
You
that's the
say,
ugliest fucking shirt you have ever worn, but you know what? I'm gonna tell you it looks cute.
exactly, exactly, and so like that, that's something that gets people to vote. It feels more exciting. It's deceptive.
It is
It's
because
deceptive.
I literally felt that way when I watched Spain's performance. When they have the audience singing along, that made me fall in love with it because it's like, wow, like the audience is really loving the environment and all of that. It really does make a difference. And so that's what was disturbing watching that performance, knowing that what we were seeing was not reality. That was not what was happening. And it was completely fake. I mean, what competition type shows like that would like to that extent? And that's the thing too. And that's what I think every single delegation should be upset about is because that is unfair treatment. Did I get fake applause?
Hmm.
No. So why didn't I get my fake applause? I didn't know that was an option. Can I click that
Yeah.
button when I'm ordering my staging? Is add fake applause to my thing? Like, is that just another thing I can click and add to my performance now? Like, like I always thought anti-booing technology just meant they muted it. I didn't think they added applause. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, and even after everything ended, we got some statements from like after immediately after we had press talking to 𝗵𝘆𝘆. 𝗵𝘆𝘆 did some like interviews. I don't know if it was anybody specifically or if they were just giving a statement, because I think there were like a bunch of microphones in their
I
face.
think the main microphone was an Irish newspaper.
An Irish
So I
newspaper.
think that's why, because it was an Irish newspaper and other people just captured it.
Yeah. But they gave, in what my opinion was a super duper powerful statement. They were super proud of 𝗍𝗏 for winning as a non-binary person. And then they went on to say that as they are like just crying and breaking down, that it's been so hard, it's been so horrible behind the scenes. And then they went and did this whole just really powerful statement that, like, I don't know, it kind of shifted something within me about that this is not, the EBU is not what Eurovision is. We are what Eurovision is. Us artists, us fans, this is what Eurovision is. And then they said, fuck the EBU. I don't even care anymore. And I
Mhm.
thought that was powerful to me because, first of all, to see artists like the way that they were breaking down, this has been so hard, this has been so horrible, as tears are just flowing. It's like, this is tragic. They just got the best result for Ireland since they were on their winning streak in the 90s. They should not be crying and saying that this is such a horrible experience. But then, you know, I did feel a sense of hope from the statement of like, we are what makes Eurovision. That did put something within me, whereas like I don't want to give up on my love for this contest. I don't want to give up on creating content for Eurovision. Like, that's true. That is what Eurovision is about. But also things need to change.
Mhm.
And that was really powerful for 𝗵𝘆𝘆. And 𝗵𝘆𝘆 has just been, ooh, as an Irish person, I have just literally, like, every moment I see 𝗵𝘆𝘆 speak, every time I watch that performance from 𝗵𝘆𝘆, I just need to say it. Like, I just get so emotional because I'm just like so proud of them beyond belief. Like, they have been truly a shining light of this entire year. Um, they really are such a strong person, and there's somebody I think everybody could benefit from looking up to. Like, they are so amazing. Like, I just, my love for 𝗵𝘆𝘆 goes beyond all bounds.
I'm looking forward to what else they say because clearly they have a lot to say about it. But it is absolutely heartbreaking that the first statements we're getting out of people about their experience at Eurovision, instead of saying, this was the most amazing thing I've done in my life. I've made so many friends. I'll never forget this. Like normally that's what we hear in those
Mm-hmm.
first interviews that it was amazing. But to hear people say it was so hard and so horrible, or �silvester from Lithuania saying going after that country with the crowd being so intense was one of the worst things I had to go through. I really did the best that I could in this situation. Traumatic experience. Wish it all ended after the first semi. Have you ever heard of a Eurovision artist saying, I wish I would have not qualified for the final?
Yeah,
That's how fucking bad the situation was. People wish they had not qualified for the final, which is what everyone
that's
is
so
there to
sad.
do. In an environment where qualification streaks are such a concern for people,
Yeah.
where people would rather not qualify than go through what they'd gone through, that they felt like it was traumatic, that they are coming away from this experience feeling traumatized. Shame on the EBU.
I literally have tears running down my face because I just feel so bad for every single one of these artists. This has just like been just horrible. Like, horrible, horrible, horrible. As like a person who has invested so much of my time into this contest that a year ago was so proud of being a fan, and it's just like, it's despicable. It's like despicable to see all this come out. Like, and to see all of these artists just literally have this be the worst moment of their lives. it's just so sad. And then I see the videos from all the positives, like all the artists dancing in the green room, that when everybody just embraced like Marina, Bambi, Yolanda, and Nemo, that video of them all hugging together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those are the moments that like what we all look forward to. And even like I go on TikTok and I'm seeing all the TikToks from like 𝗲𝗼 playing with everybody else and like doing little skits and stuff. And I'm like, it makes me so upset that this entire year, like none of that stuff got to be focused on. And it was all about all of this. And that's not what this is supposed to be about. And it just like kills me at the prospect that nothing is done and that Eurovision will, those moments in Eurovision will cease to exist if something isn't done. And, like that's not what this competition's about. And like this is supposed to be the best moment of these people's lives. It's supposed to be fun. And
In retrospect, it probably would have been better for a lot of the people who had signed that initial statement to have dropped out. Because actually, and I don't think it's any big coincidence that the ones who were saying that they had the worst experience were mostly the ones who signed that statement, plus
yeah,
others.
yeah, yeah, for
Almost like
sure.
there was a coordinated campaign to make this the most miserable experience for these people.
Yeah. And then we even had Aliona come out in an
Yeah.
interview and talk about how heavy the pressure was on all of the artists, how they were constantly being checked and banned and reminded to not show any political slogans on their body or outfits. They also said that they were happy for Nemo to win and how they felt ashamed of people who bullied Nemo for their identity. And it's just like seeing everybody come out in support of Nemo makes me so emotional. This whole year makes me so emotional. I'm like an emotional wreck this year. Because it's also just like, again, those are the moments that I fell in love with Eurovision. It's so big to see like um people from, specifically like Eastern European and like Poland and like these people be like I don't know, this as a young LGBT person who, you know, first started following the contest, like these were the moments that really like made this feel like a safe place for me for Eurovision. And then there's this overwhelming looming feeling that it's not it's gonna not be a safe place for much longer. Because even seeing the level of harassment specifically towards LGBT participants, because I can only imagine because the level of shit that I've been getting in the past week or two, just speaking out about stuff, like, I mean, it's crazy. I've never experienced this level of homophobia and transphobia from this
Well,
fandom.
it's because I think a lot of it too is not necessarily from the fandom itself, but
Mm-hmm.
Israel is a right-wing government. We're in the middle of a global right-wing power grab.
Mm-hmm.
Hungary obviously is no longer in the contest anymore. But even if you look at the politicians that were
Mm-hmm.
encouraging people to vote for Israel, a lot of them were right wingers. And even a lot of like, if you were seeing like crazy ass comments coming up, sometimes I would go and look at people's pages and it would literally be like people saying that like they're a white nationalist. So
Yeah.
it was like people saw it as like a chance to troll and rage bait and be a bigot online
Mm-hmm.
and with like a very easy and also all of these right wingers they literally just wanted to piss off woke people like that's
Mm-hmm.
like I bet there were anti-Semites who voted for Israel because it would piss off woke people
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's what those people are like they don't actually have any like moral compass whatsoever right wingers lack a moral compass
Yeah.
um
Yeah. I mean, but even at that, I will say I'm in Eurovision groups on Facebook and stuff, private groups, and people, you know, a lot of it comes from trolls. A lot of it comes from people that are just trying to troll people. But then people who actually feel that way, but don't feel like they can say it, feel empowered to say
yeah
those things.
true
Because that's the thing is like I'll see, yes, trolls is one thing, but then you see like real people, like these are real people saying a lot of these things too. And it's disturbing. And I think that it's crazy also just to think in the greater picture of all of this is it's just like, people making fun of all the contestants. Like I saw that there was an Israeli SNL skit sort of thing of this year, and it was kind of like making fun of all the weirdos,
Mm-hmm.
like the weirdo Bambi Thug, the autistic Joost Klein, and um, etc. And the you know non-binary Nemo who wears girls' clothes kind of shit, and like making
Mm-hmm.
fun of that in this skit. And it's like versus the pure Eden Golan, the normal girl, the innocent teenage child, 20-year-old
Teenage
Eden Golan.
20-year-old.
Like, and it's just like the one that is about to go on to be a war criminal. And but she's just so innocent and
Mm-hmm.
child. She is a child. I'm fighting
Yeah.
with these people on Twitter. I'm like, girl, she's not that far off from my age. Stop playing with
Yeah.
me. Stop playing with me. She is not a child. But it's just like it's just wild to see the way that that's the stance that some people choose to go with, because it's like,
It
I
goes
don't know,
against the values of the whole contest, even the
yeah.
like transphobic jokes in the contest itself. Like
Yeah.
and I think that the Norwegian representatives talked about this pretty well regarding like
Mm-hmm.
what the reality is versus the values of this contest. Um, so I think this is the guitarist Magnus Bormark said, all in all, I'm glad we went, but we had to take on more responsibility than we should have. We as artists are there because of the values of the event. When the EBU fails to live up to these values, the artist must bear them. The talks with the EBU gradually became constructive. It made it better to be there. Things were just good enough for it to be implemented. So like it seems like the Norwegians were able to get the EBU to come around on something. Um, but they said that they should have taken more responsibility. The EBU should have taken more responsibility. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that it seemed as there was one set of rules for Israel, another for the rest. There's something wrong when you experience it. Um, the artist should not have to have a crisis meeting with the EBU. It's true. The artist should not have to have a crisis meeting with the
No.
EBU. Although, you know what's interesting though is something that they said was that withdrawing was on the block until the last second.
Mm-hmm.
And I I want more clarification on that. So people could withdraw all along, or some people could withdraw all along. All people could have. Just Norway was in a particularly loose contract. Like I want to know. I
Yeah.
really, really want to know because actually a lot of these people had been warned that you should drop out of this contest because it's bad news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious what they meant by that. Because even I'm curious as to what the EBU said to them to make them feel comfortable to continue.
Yeah,
Because it as far as from our perspective looking at what was going on, nothing changed. Things
right.
actually only got worse. So, um, yeah, I don't know what that was about, I suppose. But I mean, it's great to see them also just backing up Nemo's win as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking the winner was right. And I thought it was kind of cute that they said that um, the first year that Eurovision happened, when it was created, that Switzerland won. And so maybe this will be like, a turnaround point. Um,
Go back to their
hopefully.
roots.
Yeah, hopefully. Even not even talking about Eurovision artists of this year, but like you said with 𝗫, is it 𝗫? I don't think I ever said her name right.
S-Teen had a statement. who else
But
said
Lazara,
something?
Lazara came out,
Lazara,
and I mean,
yeah.
Lazara has been extremely vocal about everything that's been going on. She's been extremely vocal about Palestine. She's been extremely vocal about her experience at Eurovision. She's talked about how she was basically whitewashed by the French delegation, that she was, you know, to kind of lose her Moroccan and you know, image, dye her hair blonde and make herself look a little more French, white
Mm-hmm.
French. Even though French aren't blonde, French
Yeah.
are brunettes, so I don't really know. But you know, but then she also has come out now recently, and we saw. So she put a statement. I believe this is probably in her Instagram, like what are those called? They're like the messages that are for
Oh, it's
oh,
broadcast
channels, her
channel.
Instagram broadcast channel. I think that's what this comes from, but she said, and this is a translation. It says, "Friends, I have received several messages. It seems that French televisions have had my clip removed from my channel, which is still under the supervision of Universal France. I think they didn't like me revealing some of their practices. Well, the clip we don't care about. But the relentlessness continues. It's a shame, but for artists, when we suffer mental, physical abuse, sexual abuse, threats to our careers, to our person, we have no resources. And when we speak, we are blocked in the process. Industry, image. Oh, imagine if I tell everything, 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 everything. I don't think it would fit into a post. It deserves a little book, don't you think? The backstage." And I was gobsmacked to see this, that they
Yeah.
deleted her music video presentation of 𝗣𝗍𝘆 off of the Eurovision channel. That shocked me. I have never seen that happen. I've never seen that happen. And artists have been critical of the EBU, and it sounds like it's probably has more to do with her label. But I thought Eurovision had rights to the music rights, that they wouldn't be able to just take down a video like that. Maybe take it off of her channel, but to take it off of the Eurovision channel, I thought they like owned a part of that. So,
That's what I thought too.
and that makes me concerned for Joost, to be honest, because the erasure of Joost's existence from Eurovision is crazy,
So
especially
weird.
given that he has not been found guilty of anything and could still come out being completely not guilty. That's that's what pisses me off about this whole thing, is that first of all, he's gonna be fucking owed an apology.
Yeah.
And how there's no way to make it right. But if he's found not guilty of anything and completely acquitted of whatever crimes or whatever that they decided upon, then it's like, well, then you took that opportunity away from him. All of that money that went into that performance, you did that, and for what? What are the repercussions against the EBU for doing that? Well, there won't be any, I'm sure.
Hmm.
Apart from 𝗲𝗄𝘅𝘆, them like pressing on it. But they did stuff like, okay, so maybe not letting him to perform in theory makes sense if you're following their story, where what, okay, well, I mean, if he's threatening towards the crew, then they don't want him to be around the crew, then they need him to be removed from the premises. Okay, that's one thing. So he won't be able to perform. Well, you release all the photos from the turquoise carpet and you cut his photo. Well, he was there. You took the
Yeah.
photo. It probably was already edited and ready to be posted, but you excluded it. And so are we now just going to pretend like he never competed? Is that what this means to them? Because I'm like, are we now going to lose the music video? Are we going to lose his semifinal performance? Are you going to like that reaction to me? Here's my personal interpretation from that, is that they don't they went into this not wanting him to be found not guilty. That is their expectation of this, is that he is guilty, and that's the stance they're taking, I guess, because that was their employee.
Hmm.
That was mistreated. But that's wild to me. Like, he was there. He was there for the turquoise carpet. We're just gonna delete that photo? That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just, I suppose, a final aspect to this. So there was also this whole situation that was going on with the flags being banned. And of course, they
Mm.
were really rigorous with the flags this year. And I think that, you know, I've had a lot of locals talking about certain flags being banned and the way they spoke about them to be as though they targeted a specific flag, right?
Mhm.
So, in regards to the Palestinian flag, of course, everybody listening knows our stances on that. So it's not against this. It's not like, I suppose, justifying it, but Eurovision, every single year I've gone, so I went in Italy and I went in Liverpool. The rules for both of those were, and I'm pretty sure even before this has been the rule for a while, is only flags are allowed are ones of competing nations. And then also the rainbow flag is also allowed. And as far as I was aware, I remember at a point there was a point where the EU flag was allowed. And the thing is, people will take screenshots from certain broadcasts and be like, "Oh, here's the Barbados flag in this one screen," and you're like, "Well, the thing is, it's pretty easy to sneak a flag in. A flag is a piece of fabric. People wear them. People, it's they don't go off necessarily in a metal detector or anything.
Well, and I
So
think there's actually a limit on the size of the flags too. So like you're not supposed to be bringing in those big ass flags. But when you watch
anymore,
the
yeah,
broadcast, you can see the people at the front row right in front of all the security protecting people from going on stage have their giant ass flags down. Like they could walk through and just take all of those flags right away, but they don't do
but
it.
they don't. Yeah, yeah, and there's clips of other flags that are not approved flags, and it's very interesting that, so that the thing is they were very conscious to avoid showing certain flags or even have the security. Apparently, from people on the ground, we've heard that apparently they had so much security, like scanning every single row. If you were to try to put up a Palestinian flag on your phone, they would come over and try to, or like threaten to kick you out. They were confiscating stuff from within the arena, apparently. So that's the thing, is it's like, well, they were specifically targeting a certain flag, which was the Palestinian flag in that sense, because we did see plenty of people with not approved flags on the stream that were obviously, they were caught on camera. Nobody cared. Like, obviously they were seen with those and it wasn't an issue because that wasn't the one they were probably meant to be focusing on. I think a lot of people brought the EU flag, no problems, to the other shows, but then conveniently in the final, then that one was being
Mm.
confiscated from people. And that was, a lot of people, probably presume that it was because of its association with 𝗷𝗄𝘅𝘅, because that's been kind of like all of his imagery and stuff has been the European Union flag. And I think that's probably right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that makes sense. If these people, a lot of these people were let in with the EU flag and other semis, and then now they aren't allowed, that probably does make sense.
Yeah.
And even things like the pride flag. So the pride flag's allowed, but we heard stories of people being turned away or having their non-binary flags being confiscated. What I
Even
found,
Nemo said that they had to sneak their non-binary flag in.
yes, yes. So even Nemo in the press conference after they won, they were asked about that. And, I just love Nemo because they weren't mincing words when it came to these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they said that they had to sneak the flag to have it in the flag parade. And that's crazy. First of all, that's fucking crazy. And what pissed me off is that the fucking Eurovision social media decided to post
Mm-hmm.
after they won a picture of them holding the non-binary flag and caption non-binary finery. And it's like, oh, fuck you. Fuck you.
Fuck you too, because also they have been posting pictures of like Nemo, Marina, Bambi Thug, and I forget who else hugging
Yeah.
each other. And you can tell because
Yolanda.
if Yolanda, if you know the context of it, that they were all about to fucking drop out together, basically.
Yeah.
Like they had that the whole thing is that they had been bullied by the delegation and by the EBU, and then the EBU goes and posts some bullshit about friendship and people coming together at the contest. Like
They're
you
coming to, yeah.
traumatized them. They're coming together because you traumatized them. That's
Yeah.
why.
Like, it's
I
kind
mean,
of,
disgusting.
it's sick. And it's going along with the fucking fake news shit that they've been going with. Because
Yes.
that's not what, no, don't try to post that shit and act like this is what Eurovision is about, is everyone coming together, becoming friends. No, bitch, they're trauma dumping because of your
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
You're the abusive ex.
Yeah.
Like, and they're all they're all the girlfriends that were abused, and they're finally all getting each other's Instagram handles and being like, oh, he fucked with you too. Yeah.
No, literally, it's like the movie First Wives Club.
Yeah. So we had that statement from Nemo from the press conference, but girl, this is wild. See, now this is where you knew Eurovision fucked up. A statement from the EU themselves.
I mean, fuck the
Exec
EU too, kind of. Like they have not been great with the whole situation going on right now,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but this is really rich. This is
Yeah.
really rich right here.
Yeah. So the executives of the European Union have criticized Eurovision for prohibiting their flag from the venue during the event. Um and and you know, of course not every nation in Eurovision is part of the European Union. Honestly, I would understand the choice not to allow the European Union flag. I would. I mean, I get it, you know, because it is in some ways considered political. I mean, there are countries right now that my brother is in at this very moment that are, you know, fighting to, you know, one side wanting to be part of the EU, etc. Like, you know, that's a political thing in a way.
Yeah, the
So
UK, hello, Brexit. It's the whole reason why they
yeah,
can't win Eurovision. I mean, that's a joke, but
it, exactly, exactly. But you know, the so the European Commission intends to, this is what they've said, is that they intend to engage in a thorough discussion with Eurovision organizers regarding this ban, adding to the existing controversies surrounding the competition. And even their spokesperson, Eric Mamer, noted that they currently lack information from the organizers regarding the rationale behind the ban of the European Union flag. And apparently the ban upset the EU Vice President Margaritas Sheenus. Uh, y'all know I'm not good with names. Prompting discussions with the Swiss-based European Broadcasting Union, the EBU, responsible for organizing the contest. So even he went on to say, like, we certainly encourage the EBU to understand this is a mistake. And then he even said, criticized the decision to ban EU flags, calling it a boon for the enemies of Europe. Described the action as mind-blowing. So here's the thing. I understand the European Union flag, like I said, being banned.
mhm.
I think that, you know, I think they need to be maybe strict. I mean, I don't think it's actually that hard to memorize. Maybe they need a fucking map or a little visual for the security of all the flags that are allowed.
No, what they need to do is they just need to say no fucking flags. And if you want a flag for a participating country, we have free flags that we'll provide to everybody.
You know what? That is tea because like I said or a few episodes ago I showed my little thing that I got from SD Lau. That is a thing. They had little buckets of pictures of every single artist and you went and grabbed one out of a bucket. Totally. Um I actually feel like in Italy they had posters of flags. Or no, maybe Liverpool. I don't know why. I feel like I remember seeing something that had pictures of flags
Mm.
available or that you were allowed to bring in, I mean. But regardless, it's just goofy. And this is just wild to see like, girl, even the EU's mad.
And the
You fucked
EU
up.
is like a real governmental organization. Like why
Mm,
the EU should not be concerned with Eurovision.
yeah, no. Yeah. So, girl, that is what's been going on with all that mess.
Hmm.
But then, you know what? Honestly, some positives. So I know Eurovision fans love statistics. And, you know, here's the thing is I was feeling genuinely like, and I think a lot of people were feeling this, just like absolutely heartbroken for Joost. It's tragic, of course, his story, why he went to Eurovision, why Eurovision was so important to him, etc. But I think that I'm starting to at least feel happy at the fact that Joost is low key coming out of this as a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, because literally, girl. Okay, so and I've been said this. I said, you know what? He got to perform on that stage. He got his performance out there. Let him be a fucking icon. Like Greta Salome said, it's better for you to stay in the semis. Don't go to the final and be forever remembered as being robbed. Greta's
Hmm.
filled with that because that's what's happening with Yost. Because honestly, him and 𝗍𝗏 are the two getting all the press.
Yeah.
And he might as well have been like a second winner of this year
Mm-hmm.
because Joost started off during semifinal 2. He had 600,000 followers on Instagram. Now, as of today of filming Tuesday, he just surpassed and is now the most followed. He just surpassed Angelina Mango, who had 1.5 million followers. He just surpassed her and is now the most followed artist of this year at 1.6 million followers. In 5 days, he gained 1 million followers. That's fucking
Insane.
insane. Um, and then even so, 𝗍𝗏𝘅𝘆 has peaked so far at number 22 on the global Spotify charts. That's not the highest that anybody has peaked. 𝗍𝗏 did peak at 17, but everybody else has started to drop now, following after a few days of the contest. Everybody else has started to drop, and he is continuing to rise. So he's likely to go above even 22 and go even higher. He is about to be, probably honestly, by the time, I mean, actually, definitely by the time this episode goes out, he is going to be the most streamed song of this year, surpassing Angelina Mango. And see, now that's a big deal when you pass the Italian act. That's
Yeah.
when you know you fucking made it, because they're always, it's almost to the point where you kind of ignore their statistics. Like, they're always going to be the most followed. They're always going to be the most streamed. So you just kind of ignore them. So like the second place is usually, but so 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝘅 has 65 million streams, but 𝗍𝗏𝘅𝘅 is gaining about 3.5 million a day. And the
It's
only people who are
wild.
getting those numbers is him and 𝗍𝗏. So it's almost like they're winning. Like, they're actually, it's interesting. So there's a Eurovision statistics on Twitter that they cover these things every single day. They post like updates of like when a song hits this certain milestone, and then daily statistics of where like the top 10 most streamed songs and stuff like that, and like where they're showing up in the charts and everything. And it's interesting because like, like the mix, it's like a mixture of like, the same sort of 10 songs, but 𝗍𝗏𝘅𝘅 and the Code are both like by far the most streamed too, every single day, at gaining like 3.5 million streams each. Like almost exactly the same. So it's like they both won. Like, and there's some interesting things being revealed as streams are starting to be paid attention to. Specifically the fact that our second place in the televote winner seems to be floundering everywhere when it comes to actually real world uh support of the song, which is just opening up the discussion as to how legitimate those televote votes were.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically when you are the winner, or like the second place of the televote, typically your song begins to chart in the countries that all gave you 12 points, um,
Mm-hmm.
or even the worldwide charts. And it's very interesting that 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝗆 is only the 11th most streamed song of this year. The 11th, not even in the top 10. So above 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝗆, this is embarrassing. They got the same amount of streams as Always on the Run Germany.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
That is embarrassing. Like 𝗥𝗏𝘆𝘆, 𝗵𝗏 𝘥𝗍𝑒𝑑𝑚, 𝗲𝗏, 𝗃𝗏𝑒 and Maria, the Code, 𝗍𝗏𝘅𝘅, Unforgettable, Mon Amour, 𝗍𝗏𝘅𝘅, and 𝗏𝗏𝘅 are all above that. Like, so 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝗆's nowhere near being most streamed, not even in the top 10. 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝗆 is the only place that 𝗏𝗏𝘅𝗆 is the most like on the charts highest is Israel. Everywhere
Yeah.
else, it's pretty low. They've got several songs above them on like each country's charts. So it's just suspicious because this doesn't happen to the songs that are fan favorites, allegedly.
Right.
And I think that what
Especially in
it's
the countries where you're getting 12.
yes, yeah.
And they got 12 and 10 from so many countries in televote. You would expect that
They
song
got
to
the
be
most amount of
popular.
12s out of
Yeah.
anybody. So they got 15 12 points, and I think that the next highest was only got like, I think 8 12 points. Um so that's not normal to have such a resounding, amount of points from the actual Eurovision, but then actually like seeing it in real world. Even I was looking on YouTube views, like the performance does not have, it's not near the most popular. It's just got a couple million. It's just like, there's a couple above them. Like it's just, and I am standing strong. I really truly don't believe there was anything nefarious. There wasn't something like Azerbaijan 2011 where there were bought SIM cards and stuff like that. I don't believe there was anything like that occurred. But I do believe that, there were campaigns. I mean, we saw the ads that Israel put out where Eden was speaking in every single language,
Butchering
butchering every
every
single
single
language.
language.
Girl, speak on the Polish. Speak on the Polish.
Oh, I was screaming when she says "shech" instead of "shish." I was like, "The fuck did you say?" It was
Oh my
that
God.
the Polish was tragic. The Polish was really, really tragic.
Yeah. And it was just pretty clear that the people who voted for that entry were voting for the country.
Yeah.
And they weren't voting for the song. They were voting for what voting for Israel meant to them and meant for Israel. That's what they
Mhm.
were voting for. And
Which
so
is like by definition, that they made the contest political.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And so I just take solace in looking at these numbers though, and in knowing that in the end, sorry, this is me being hateful, but in the end, they lost. Like I am taking solace in that they lost everything. They lost the televote, the jury, the show. They lost the 𝗲𝗡 They lost the OGAE. They lost streaming. They're not the most viewed. They're not the most streamed. They're not even the most streamed of the day. They aren't anything. They lost. They didn't even beat their place from last year. And this everything that they went through for this year, all their efforts to tear every single person down in the end did not work.
Even
It,
with shitloads of help from the EBU.
yeah, yeah. Even with that, they lost. So that at least I can rest easy after that and be satisfied in that sense. And you know what? Estonia is even in the top 20, and that makes me happy to see.
Yeah. So is the tower, but Poland is a very big country, so there's
Well,
lots of
I was
people to
actually
wish that
shocked at
for.
how low that number was because I would expect it to be higher for Poland. But so yeah. So that's kind of the end cap to Eurovision for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. Not in reality, but just in terms of news for this episode, I suppose. And
Yeah,
um
like I don't
you know,
think we're gonna do unless some crazy shit happens. Like the next episode's not gonna be all news. Because we've kind of done
yes.
that this whole time. Like when there's lots of news happening, we'll do like a whole news episode. When there's lots of shows happening, we'll do lots of that. But I think probably next week will be a little bit more mixed. Maybe we'll do a little bit of like ranking, award
Yeah.
type, more fun stuff. And maybe a little bit of news too, because I'm sure some things are going to happen. But this was kind of one of those things where we just needed to, get it all out there, the
Yes.
state of things after this
Yeah.
crazy, crazy Eurovision week.
Yeah, it's gonna be honestly one of the craziest off seasons. I've just got a feeling because
Mm.
we've never left Eurovision with this much at stake, this much on the line, this many unanswered questions. This off season is going to determine a lot of how the on season is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there will be a lot of news. We will after this season. We won't be so after next week. We're gonna just for everybody listening. Here's kind of what the plan is now going forward with the podcast. Of course, I mean, honestly, this off season we might actually have there might actually be
Yeah.
enough news to do episodes weekly still, but we're not going to do weekly episodes after next week. Next week we're going to do kind of like a Eurovision awards thing, kind of how our Eurovision
Mm.
or kind of how the Joint Slate podcast started. We're going to do some of our awards, and then we are going to stop doing weekly podcasts over here, but you can expect to see some exciting Patreon exclusive content, like I said at the beginning of the episode, over on Patreon. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. I'm sure I will do some kind of, promo videos and stuff whenever those go out. So those will be going on the channel so you guys can kind of see what's up and, tempt you a little bit to subscribe. So we want to like keep you guys entertained during the off season still. And also, like, I don't want to stop talking to my best friend. So, I want to keep doing this stuff with you. So that's what you guys can expect in the coming weeks and everything like that. But I gotta ask you, what are you listening to?
Okay, so um after Saturday actually, I was listening to so much 𝗵𝗵𝘆 and
Oh,
Tsunami by
yes.
𝗵𝗵𝘆. Oh my God. This song, I think I listened to it for probably 30 minutes straight on the train on my way to go watch the final.
Yeah.
Amazing song. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, this is not my choice of song, but since you brought it up, I also streamed like all of 𝗵𝗵𝘆's discography today. Not a miss in that entire discography. Everything is so good. Like, and honestly, if you're not a fan of Doomsday Blue, you will find something you love in their discography because they have everything from fucking Pop Perfection, that song last summer off of their like EP with Doomsday Blue. That sounds like a fucking 𝗵𝗵𝘆 song. That's like just straight up fucking pop perfection. And they have a song called 𝗥𝗶𝗄𝗅.
Good one. Yeah.
Oh my God. That might be better than Doomsday Blue. Like at least the performance for Doomsday Blue is one thing, but I know a lot of people felt like, oh, like I like this as a performance, but maybe I'm not streaming it as much. That is kind of like the energy, but oh, it's so good. But my personal uh choice is just gonna be the fucking album that 𝗣𝗍 and Pull Up came out together with. Fucking amazing. I'm like, okay, anybody who does a collab for Eurovision, do this. I love the idea that they did a collab for Eurovision for one song and they did a whole collab album with 13 songs on it. Like, this is not just an EP, this is a full length
You know who else
album.
did that? 𝗫𝗍𝘅𝘅 and the brothers 𝗵𝗵𝘆.
Oh,
They did a full
really?
album. Yes.
Like, I knew there were so many crossovers amongst them. And so I love it because, like, obviously, 𝗣𝗍 and Pull Up were my winners of this year for the song, and I love the fucking song. That's just the kind of music I love, and so I'm like, I listened to this whole album, the entire album called Kenna Tu. Okay, I'm gonna try to say it because I'm pushing myself. If I want to live there, I'm gonna have to push myself. Kenna Tu said ek kulakigel pole stop it. I don't fucking know. But that's the name of the album. So good. My favorite song from the album, other than their Eurovision song, is Pole Talenti on Vide 2. Um, it's so good. I feel like I'm prancing through the Renaissance Festival. We've got the fucking instruments. Everything is so sick. They're so good together. Oh, I love
Wait,
it.
I'm looking at the name of the album and I think I might be able to get it a bit closer than you because I've been studying Finnish. Kana Tu said ek kulakigel pole stop it.
Okay. That sounded good. Sounded good.
I think that's probably a little bit closer to how you say it.
Well. Oh, okay. Well, just,
Well,
whatever.
are you
Whatever.
forgetting?
Fuck
Actually,
you.
I am a Finnish newspaper star now because that
Oh, okay.
article
She
about me
just
came out
changed.
in one of the biggest Finnish newspapers. So
Oh, good for you. Whatever. I'm an Estonian reality TV
that's
star.
right. That's
We
right.
all
That's
got our
right.
things. Well, congrats on that. You want to talk about that? You want to promo it?
Yeah, it's at 𝗫𝗆𝘅𝘆𝘆. I'll send you the link and you can put it in the description.
Yes. Yes. Alrighty, guys. Well, it has been a great episode with y'all. It has been a great season. It's not over yet, but yeah, thank you all for listening. Of course, again, don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon for the millionth time because there's going to be a lot of amazing fun content over there over the off season. And yeah, guys, my name is Maxxy Rainbow.
And I'm Renata from the East Spot.
and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.